The following tutorial is brought to you by WholeLoops.com.
It's production time. I'm Reid Stefan Realest Puppet in the game. Today, I'm mixing vocals with the Slate Digital All Access Pass. We're going to be doing this using Ableton 11, but these Slate plugins work the same in every DAW, so you'll be able to follow along no matter what software you use. The recordings that we have are for a track titled Woosah, performed by KARRA, produced by myself and Kashmir, and if you want to hear a quick preview of what the finished mix sounds like, here it is.
Woosah, so why you always tryna come and undo? Oh, woosah, so I'ma focus on anything but you.
So now that you've heard the results that we're going to be achieving, let's open up this group where we'll find all the raw recordings of lead vocals, doubles, harmonies, background vocals, and adlibs. We have a lot of vocals to mix through, so let's take a listen to these dry recordings.
I've been thinking new thoughts. You stay getting more lost. I can't tie myself to your rocks.
And we'll solo the vocals.
Woosah, so why you always tryna come and undo? Oh, woosah, so I'ma focus on anything but you.
The first process I like to apply to lead vocals is some tuning before any EQ, compression, or special effects. I'm going to use the MetaTune plugin here on my lead vocals. All you have to do is choose the key of your song, which in this case is F sharp minor, and adjust the tuning speed here with this first knob. A high tuning speed will give you an extreme robotic effect, and a lower knob position will be more suitable for an organic, more naturally tuned vocal. I'm going to go somewhere in the middle to start.
I've been thinking new thoughts. You stay.
Let's go all the way up.
I can't tie myself to your rocks. Oh, gotta get away. I've been taking off since.
Can even go above 0.
Tipping big rooftop like I'm alive. Feel like I'm meeting Mama Fuku in a villa. The longer you're gone, the more I can.
So as you could hear, there's a lot of variety in tone to be played with when controlling the tuning speed. While you're tracking, you have the option of using low latency, but since I'm just mixing, I'm going to turn this off now and let the plugin do its full thing. I'm going to keep my retune speed at about 15. This is somewhere between a pop and a hip hop song with a lot of EDM influence in the instrumental, so I think a more processed sounding vocal is going to be appropriate for this. But we're going to be automating this plugin on and off using the global bypass button, because this vocal is not singing the whole time, which means we're not going to need tuning the whole time. So the easiest way to automate anything in Ableton is to click on it and then hit the letter A for your automation. And now you have a line that you can enable for when you want your tuning bypass. So keep it down to have it on and then turn it off for the rap.
Gotta get away. I've been taking off since I fell off. Tipping big rooftop like I'm alive. Feel like I'm meeting Mama Fuku in a villa. The longer you're gone, the more I can.
I love that breath that kind of interrupts the lyrics. It's like a organic vocal effect that you could just very easily do with the grid. You even have the option to increase your tuning speed during the hook. Maybe you want it to blend in better with all the vocals.
Why you always tryna come and undo?
Or maybe you want less.
I'ma focus on anything.
This hook has some long, bendy, swoopy notes in it, and a lot of times tuning plugins and swoopy notes don't go so well together. So in this hook, I'm actually going to turn it down. Maybe in your hook, you'd want to turn it up. And since every layer individually needs its own tuner, I'm going to use the copy and paste shortcut to put a MetaTune on each layer of vocals. So I'm going to go in here, paste it on each double. This is the only plugin that we're putting individually on each channel.
The longer you're gone, the more I can. Woosah, so why you always tryna come and undo? Oh, woosah, so I'ma focus on anything but you.
MetaTune by itself is putting a huge difference on how polished this vocal sounds already. But tuning is only the beginning of the sauce. So I don't have to copy and paste the same chain onto all 3 of these lead vocals. I'm going to use the group as a place to process all my leads together. MetaTune is on each individual channel, but the rest of these plugins are going to go on my leads group, which is effectively the same as pasting at the same time on all 3 of these channels, but it saves CPU. Inside this EQ, I'm not going to do anything crazy surgical. I like to just double click where this high pass filter indicator is and pull it up around 100 Hertz for female vocals, maybe a little bit less, give or take depending on the voice.
I've been thinking new thoughts. You stay
And let's turn it off.
I can't tie myself to your rocks. So gotta get away.
Back on.
I've been taking off since I fell off. Tipping big.
I also like to have this little resonance peak where it's getting cut off. I feel like that helps make up for some of the perceived bass that gets lost from this. But around 90 Hertz is going to be perfect for a female voice. If you're a guy, you might have a lower number around 80, maybe even 70. And for higher pitch female singing, you might have a higher number. You can even automate this to create low cut effects throughout your song. But that's going to be a perfect start for our EQ. We're not doing anything too crazy here. We're not doing anything dynamic or multiband yet. Next, I'm going to pull up the plugin that's going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and that is the Virtual Mix Rack. The Virtual Mix Rack is my absolute favorite Slate plugin because it allows you to load up a whole chain of sauce and save it in one very convenient preset, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We've got our low cut going here. The next thing I want to add is a little bit of preamp and coloring EQ like the FGN. I'm going to use this drive button to activate the preamp saturation, and this is going to do what an analog preamp would be doing to the signal by using these gains to just add some more drive and grit to the signal from the start.
I've been thinking new thoughts. You stay getting more lost. I can't tie myself to your rocks.
In addition to that, I'm also going to do a little mid-range boost here at around 4K.
I've been thinking new thoughts. You stay getting more lost.
I just love how much that bites. And a little bit at the very top too.
Taking off since I fell off. Tipping big rooftop like I'm well off. Feel like I'm meeting Mama Fuku in a villa. The longer you're gone, the more I can.
And we're doing little tiny boosts, like less than 1 dB on each. I really like the way bells sound instead of shelves for boosting, and I love the way the classic Neve EQ sounds for this. Let's load up some compression. I like to alternate between EQ and compression when I process vocals and kind of split the load amongst a bunch of different plugins. I'm gonna hit this with some smooth compression first, like the FG2A, and we're gonna do just a tiny little bit of peak reduction. Just pull this knob down so we're not hitting it so hard. And let's turn it on off. I'm really just trying to keep the needle around 3 decibels of gain reduction. And that's just a perfect soft compression to help take the huge peaks off the vocal. And now I'm going to follow that up with some more EQ. I always love bumping my highs and mids going into a compressor because I always feel like that's the tone that gets lost from compression. So it just makes up for it going in. Next, I'm going to add a different kind of EQ, and this is actually a free Slate plugin that's been one of my OG favorite free plugins for a long time, and it's called Revival. And this is a harmonic saturation-based EQ to add warmth and brightness to anything, like a voice.
I've been thinking new thoughts. You stay getting more lost. I can't tie myself to your rocks.
I'm going to use this for the thickness.
Gotta get away. I've been thinking new thoughts. You stay getting more lost. I can't tie myself to your rocks. Gotta get away.
And that's just adding a little bit more color and warmth going into the next chain, which is going to be some more compression, and that is the Monster Compressor. This is emulated after an 1176 with the all knobs in button engaged, and that's what this punch button is here. And we're going to be using this as a parallel compressor, so we're going to be blending half and half.
I've been thinking new thoughts. You stay getting more lost. I can't tie
Ooh, that gets crispy.
myself to your rocks. Gotta get away. I've been thinking new thoughts. You
turn the whole rack off.
Feel like I'm eating mama fuku in the villa. The longer you're gone, the more I can. Woosah, so why you always tryna come and undo? Oh, woosah, so I'ma focus on anything but you.
So that gave us some great dynamic control and tone shaping. The final plugin I like to have in this is a little bit of de-essing. And in my opinion, the best de-esser of all the Slate plugins is here inside Virtual Mix Rack, FG DS902. And we're gonna drop this here at the end of the rack. And let's turn the range up.
So I'ma focus on anything but you.
And you'll see it start working.
Thinking that you're the reason why everything wasn't feeling right.
Let's turn the frequency up for a female voice.
Cause you ain't there to hold me down. Live from the west
You can
side.
even hit the mix knob.
High, coming up like a yo-yo. Free, cutting my ties. But the longer you're gone, the more I can. Woosah, so why you always tryna come and undo?
And we've created a perfect vocal sauce. Consists of compression, EQ, harmonic saturation, and de-essing. Sometimes I even like to go in and hit it with one final EQ, just like it's going through a console, like the SSL console EQ, the FGS. And this will be your final tone and coloring. I always like using bells, like I said, to boost or reduce any high frequencies. And we're gonna go way higher with this than we've gone before.
So I'ma focus on anything but
Get that really, really high-end information.
thinking that you're the reason why everything wasn't feeling right. But everything going right now.
And maybe a little bit of warmth too.
Cause you ain't there to hold me down. Live from the west side, I'm the new high. Coming up like a yo-yo. Free, cutting off ties. And the longer you're gone, the more I can.
And we'll do one final filter.
Why you always tryna come and undo? Oh, woosah, so I'ma focus on anything but you.
And let's turn this on and off.
I ain't with a tryna my cool. I'm already hella icy cause I'm covered in jewels.
dry.
On an everyday vacation, that's my occupation. Oh, you mad?
Why?
I can
And
see
back
your
on.
aggravation cause I got paper from all the haters. KARRA for mayor, and there's nothing you can do about it. They keep trying, I ain't replying. I just put my phone in silent cause I like my peace and quiet.
So we've created a basic low cut and an entire mix rack of all of our EQ and compression here all in one spot. I'm going to follow this up with some multiband compression, and that's going to be the MOTT. And this thing starts out with an extremely aggressive preset, but we're just going to turn this down and dial this up from 0 instead of dialing it back from 100, because like I said, it's like really strong when you first load it up, just like the OTT preset in Ableton.
I've been thinking new thoughts. You stay getting more lost. I can't tie myself to your rocks.
And let's just use it a little bit.
I've been taking off since I fell off. Tipping big rooftop like I'm alive. Feel like I'm eating mama fuku in the villa. The longer you're gone, the more I can.
I'm just going to bring up the level of the mids a little bit.
So, why you always tryna come and undo? Oh, so I'ma focus on anything but you.
And we're just using this at a 10% amount. Very subtle, but also doing a lot at the same time. Let's try turning this whole chain on and off.
I've been thinking new thoughts. You stay
And
getting
bypass.
more lost. I can't tie myself to your rocks. Oh,
Back on.
gotta get away. I've been taking off since I fell off.
And one last plugin I'm going to drop on here is going to be for just that little sparkle and sizzle that makes a vocal just feel perfectly polished. And this plugin is called Fresh Air. It's free and anyone can use it even if you don't have the all access pass. You can add mid presence or you can add high presence.
I've been thinking new thoughts. You stay getting more lost. I can't tie myself to your rocks. Oh, gotta get away. I've been taking off since I fell off. Tipping big rooftop like I'm alive.
Try.
Feel like I'm eating mama fuku in the villa. The longer you're gone,
Mix.
the more I can. Woosah, so why you always tryna come and undo? on anything but you.
And keep in mind, this chain is only processing this small group of vocal layers, pretty much just the lead vocals. Everything else is just MetaTune so far. I'm going to keep processing these lead vocals before we start copying everything down and making adjustments, but these vocals are very nicely sauced up and ready for some wet effects.
Do you use Slate plugins but find yourself getting lost in all that sauce? Have you wasted countless hours scrolling through presets waiting to hear something good for your voice? Introducing Slate Vocal Sauce, the perfectly sauced up template that'll transform your raw recordings to a polished and organic mix. Slate Vocal Sauce is available now only at holoops.com.
I like to create my effects using aux channels, and Ableton has my favorite shortcut for creating built-in aux channels to each track called channel groups. Let's use this reverb as an example. This has a mix knob on it, but I feel like there's a better way to do it. Drop the plugin on your channel, press Command-G to turn it into an audio effect rack, and then right-click and create a new chain and rename it Dry by pressing Command-R. So you have Dry and you have VerbSuite, color themed with the plugin. And let's add some reverb to this vocal using the level of the 100% wet signal. We can just turn it down maybe 10 or 15 below.
They keep trying, I ain't replying. I just put my phone on silent cause I like my peace and quiet. Why you always trying to come and undo?
Increase the decay time for longer reverb tails.
I'ma focus on anything but you.
That's already sounding really clean. I like to adjust a few more parameters in this reverb. I love making it really present in the mid and lows and pulling back the highs a little bit so that it doesn't compete so much. I find the S's and T's really stick out like a sore thumb in reverb, and turning down the highs just takes care of that perfectly. We can also create a little bit of pre-decay, which creates a little bit of delay before the reverb actually kicks in. And let's take a listen to our vocal now.
I've been thinking new thoughts. You stay getting more lost. I can't tie myself to your rocks. So gotta get away. I've been taking off since I fell off. Tipping big rooftop.
Let me shorten it back.
Feel like I'm meeting Mama Fuku in a villa. The longer you're gone, the more I can.
And we've got a very clean, bright and shiny reverb that holds down the background of the voice, adding a little bit of width and sparkle to it. I just love the VerbSuite Classics, and we're going to continue loading this rack up with fun effects. Now I'm going to create a little bit of delay to really help this vocal just fill in the gaps or have special effects at special moments. Or even here where we have the clean version and some lyrics are cut out, we'll use delays to fill this in too.
I ain't with a tryna my cool.
So let's go grab a delay plugin. Some very slept on plugins inside the All Access Pass are the Kiloheartz plugins. They have a really simple delay plugin here that we could load up in our rack. I'm just going to trap this delay right here. And we can start with a quarter note delay. We might actually create a few variations and fill up this rack with a whole bunch of different effects. I'm going to make this a different color, and we're going to sync this, and we're going to make this quarter note, which is 4/16 notes. We can keep the ping pong off and just turn the delay down a little bit. And this is why I love this, because it has a ducking knob, which reduces the volume of the delays when the dry vocal is going on. I'm also going to turn the mix up to 100% because this is on an aux channel. And let's pull the volume down a little bit and see what we got.
Thinking that you're the reason why everything wasn't feeling right, but everything going right now. Cause you ain't there to hold me down.
And we could turn the feedback down a little bit. I'm gonna follow this up with a few more Kiloheartz plugins, like a filter, that will help us keep all of our delays a little bit less bright than the original.
Thinking that you're the reason why everything wasn't feeling right, but everything going right now.
And we're even gonna give these quarter note delays their own little reverb with the Kiloheartz reverb. And we're going to put the mix knob at a lower percent because I don't want to completely wash out the delays.
Thinking that you're the reason why everything wasn't feeling right, but everything going right now. Cause you ain't there to hold me down.
We can even get extra freaky and add some distortion before these delays so that they sound even less dry.
Thinking that you're the reason why everything wasn't feeling right, but everything going right now. Cause you ain't there to hold me down. Live from the west side, I'm the new high, coming up like a yo-yo.
And finally, to add some stereo width to these, we could throw the Kiloheartz stereo plugin at the end. And man, we just created some super saucy delays.
Focus on anything but you.
Let's turn the width up.
Thinking that you're the reason why everything wasn't feeling right, but everything going right now.
And we just created a super saucy quarter note delay. All these plugins just for one little delay. And again, we can mute it and choose the volume of it using the levels on this rack. And our dry vocal is always here consistently at full volume, no matter what we do with our effects. Now that we've got a really solid vocal chain set up, let's copy this down and apply it to our background vocals, stacks, and adlibs. I'm going to start out with the stacks. And one thing I know that with my stacked vocals, I'm not going to want as much low end, and I'm also not going to want as much high end. So I might just do a shelf, because that just reduces it without completely removing it. I don't want it out of there. I just want it down a little bit. And that's going to be going into this whole chain. I don't want them to be as parallel compressed as my lead vocals are. So I'm going to pull the mix down on all these some more. Everything else, we're going to play it and just kind of go by ear. But I know just by default, I don't want my stacks to have as much of those things as my leads. I want to add one more special plugin to the effects rack here in these background vocals, and that's going to be another delay. And this is going to be a really tight slap delay that kind of helps emphasize the group effect of all these layers. So I'm going to put slap in here, and I'm going to put milliseconds and ping pong, and we're going to do a really fast, really short delay. So let's switch this to sync and go way, way down, like 50-ish.
So, why you always trying to come and undo? Woosah. So, I'ma focus on anything but you.
You see just that little bit of slap delay adds so much nice thickness in there.
Everything wasn't feeling right, but everything going right now. Cause you ain't there to hold me down.
Let's take a listen to the stacks in this last hook.
Focus on anything but you. So,
And let's turn off the stacks processing. And with it,
I'ma focus on anything but you.
these stacks aren't really too different from the leads. Like rhythmically, they're following the top line exactly. They're just doing different octaves and harmonies and things that help them feel more stacked, like a chorus. So that's simply all we're gonna do, just a very light variation of the lead vocal chain, processing this whole group. And like I said earlier, everything is panned and tuned individually, but processed here on the group to save CPU and give you one easy point to control everything. Let's make a duplicate of this chain and bring it down onto the background vocals. We're going to do something even more extreme with the processing on these. I'm going to take out even more of the high end with the Infinity EQ. We're actually going to switch this to a full-blown filter instead of a shelf, because we do want to completely roll off. And we're also going to be making these pretty thin too, because these are, after all, our background vocals.
Let's
filter it out more. And you hear how those are completely pushed back into the background now using effects and filtering. No competition with the lead, especially when we put the music in. Everything just sits nice and perfectly in the background.
My phone on silent cause I like my peace and quiet. Why you always trying to come and undo? But I'ma focus on anything but you.
Might even add just one more reverb on here just to be extra saucy on the verb. Sometimes the VerbSuite is really only good for like short and medium stuff, and you need something to come in and give you a long, heavy-duty reverb tail.
My phone on silent cause I like my peace and quiet. Why you always trying to come and undo? But
Turn those nice and quiet in the mix.
I'ma focus on anything but you. Why you always trying to come and undo?
Just sounding ever so perfect in the background, tucked behind the lead. So that brings us down to our ad-lib vocals, and these are going to be processed very similarly to our background vocals, but these are slightly more like leads than stacks, where everything is supposed to sound good individually on its own, be heard and understood. Let's take a listen to how it sounds through the background vocal chain. to make sure these are as thin as possible, I might copy this EQ before and after the chain. Make them a little bit thinner.
Woosah, 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 woosah.
Let those quarter note delays rock, even some slap delay.
Breathe it in, breathe it in.
And we're sauced up.
Breathe it out, breathe it out. Thinking that you're the reason why everything wasn't feeling right, but everything going right now. Thinking that you're the reason why.
I might even make a little crazy shouting effect and turn the MetaTune all the way up on these.
Thinking that you're the reason why everything wasn't feeling right, but everything
Just turn this down a little bit, the mix.
See when they hold me down, live from the west side. I'm a new high, coming up like a yo-yo, free, cutting off ties. But the longer you're gone, the more I can.
Super saucy. So we've created chains to mix our leads, stacks, background vocals, and ad-libs. The last thing I want to do is something super special just for this outro ad-lib that we have here in the leads. And since this is really its own thing, I'm going to do this chain going right into this channel. I'm going to start out by putting a phaser on here just to give us that cool stereo thing, and also a little bit of a filter too. I'm going to actually duplicate this filter, make the first one a low cut and the second one a high cut. And the low cut's always going to stay the same, and I'm going to automate the high cut. Close it out like this. And there you have a perfectly sauced up vocal, top to bottom, with 100% Slate Digital All Access plugins. We're going to take one last final listen to the song to see how far we've come, and also compare it to the dry vocals from the beginning before we wrap this course up.
I've been thinking new thoughts. You stay getting more lost. I can't tie myself to your rocks. So gotta get away. I've been taking off since I fell off. Tipping big rooftop like I'm well off. Feel like I'm meeting Mama Fuku in the villa. The longer you're gone, the more I can. Woosah, so why you always tryna come and undo? Oh, woosah, so I'ma focus on anything but you. Thinking that you're the reason why everything wasn't feeling right, but everything going right now. See when they hold me down, live from the west side. I'm a new high, coming up like a yo-yo, free, cutting off ties. But the longer you're gone, the more I can. Woosah, so why you always tryna come and undo? Oh, woosah, so I'ma focus on anything but you. I ain't with a tryna f my cool. I'm already hella icy cause I'm covered in jewels. I'm the everyday vacation, that's my occupation. Oh, you mad, man? Why? I can see your aggravation cause I got paper from all the haters. KARRA for mayor, and there's nothing you can do about it. They keep trying, I ain't replying. I just put my phone on silent cause I like my peace and quiet. So why you always tryna come and undo? But woosah, so I'ma focus on anything but you. Woosah, so why you always tryna come and undo? Oh, woosah, so I'ma focus on anything but you.
So saucy. And there you have it, mixing a vocal from scratch to the finished professional results with 100% Slate Digital All-Access plugins. If you want to get your hands on my Slate Vocal Sauce preset, available for Ableton, FL Studio, Logic, Cubase, Studio One, the list goes on and on. I'll put a link in the description below, and if you're not a member of the All-Access Pass, I'll include a link to that as well. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial, and I'll catch you guys next time in another video. Peace out.